Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So as you saw with yesterday's video, I am starting to roll out some of my season predictions, considering we're only like a month and a half away from the season. And I realized that I had not updated my bottom 10 teams in the NHL since like just days after free agency. Don't get me wrong, there hasn't been like blockbuster trades and any signings that have massively changed anything, but I think that there has been some, and just overall, after digging into some of these teams, my opinion has changed in terms of shuffling some of my bottom 10, a couple teams in, maybe a couple teams out. So we're going to go through it right now. Let's not waste any time. Up first, it's still the San Jose Sharks. I'm not shocking anybody with this. After they got Cody Ceci and Jake Wallman post-free agency, or Wallman was pre-free agency, I have not massively moved on the San Jose Sharks team. I think they're going to be between like 55 and 62 points most likely. Not going to be good. It's not going to be good. When looking at their defense core, it is one of the worst defense cores of the 21st century. Their goalie tandem, it's not the worst in the league, but it still is pretty below average with guys like Vanacek and Blackwood. Forward core could potentially surprise people if Smith, Celebrini really hit. Toffoli still has some game left on top of William Eklund. But yeah, this team, considering the fact that they're still another, they're going to stink for at least another 2 years, and rightfully so, in order to accrue more prospects. They're still my worst team heading into next season. My second worst is no longer the team that I had in the last edition of this, which was the Calgary Flames. I'm going to be going with the Columbus Blue Jackets, in part because they traded away Patrick Laine, and though I think Jordan Harris can be an okay piece for them, he's clearly not as good as Patrick Laine. I thought they were going to have Patrick Laine this season, so I moved them down. They did get Sean Monahan in this free agency cycle, but the defense core still has massive holes outside of Zach Werenski, unless Matejchuk and Jiricek can play. Matejchuk and Jiricek, but Matejchuk and Jiricek can play sizable roles. I think they're going to have a bottom three defense core in the NHL. I think that Fantilli and some of their young guys are going to take steps, but still, they really don't have any elite first liners outside of maybe Johnny Gaudreau with their team. In the goalie tandem being probably Merzlikins and Tarasov really doesn't move me that much, so I think they're in store for another around 60-ish point season. Third, I got the Calgary Flames here. I still think that they're going to absolutely stink. Nothing has massively changed with the Calgary Flames, where I think they're going to go from the second worst team to the seventh. No, they're still probably going to be below 75 points. Somehow their over-under on most sports books are below 81.5. I'm not encouraging you to go gamble, but I put a couple $100 on that, I'm not going to lie. So in looking at the Calgary Flames, 81 points last year, and they sold like 4 out of their 8 best players at the deadline. It's not like they did much in free agency. They're not even at the deadline. They also traded Jacob Markstrom. They got Anthony Mantha, but that is not going to make up for all that they lost. Also traded on Andrew Mangiapane. So as a result, this team is really, the defense core is really shaky outside of Mackenzie Weegar and Rasmus Anderson. The goalie tandem, I think Dustin Wolf is a very good prospect and will be a very good starting goalie one day. Probably not when he gets thrown to the Wolves this season. Really, really clever for me on that one. In the forward core, it's okay. It's maybe not a bottom 3 forward core in the NHL. Actually, probably is. I don't know. It's not good. It's still a lot of average with the Calgary Flames, and there's a decent chance that they sell even more at this year's deadline. They got guys like Kuzmenko on an expiring deal. Anderson only has 2 years left. Maybe you trade him. So I think it's a safe bet that the Calgary Flames are going to end up being a bottom 5 team in the NHL this season. Number 4, I got the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, going to take a big step. 52 points last year. I'd put them at around 72 this season. That's a crazy improvement, and rightfully so, after what they did this offseason in terms of signing guys like Teravainen, Bertuzzi, trading, getting an asset to take on a guy like Mikheyev that can maybe have some game left. In terms of the defense core additions, Alec Martinez, TJ Brody are going to be solid veteran adds, and I think their goalie tandem is actually a strength considering compared to the rest of the team. It's like a middle-of-the-pack goalie tandem when looking at Petr Mrazek, that was very good on a pretty shit team last year, on top of Brossoit only played like 20 games, but had like a .924 save percentage or something ridiculous like that. He was fantastic. So as a result, assuming Bedard takes another step, assuming Frank Nazar can be a solid player right off the gate, Korchinski takes a step, Vlasic takes a step, Chicago Blackhawks should be a pretty competitive team this year. And if they're a bottom 3 team, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think their goal is to be like the 4th through 6th worst team in the NHL this season. They're not like a sleeper playoff team like I've seen some people say. That's absolutely ridiculous. 5th worst, the Philadelphia Flyers. Yes, they got Matvei Michkov coming over, but outside, I think their forward core is just a lot of like okay second liners, if that makes sense. They don't really have any elite talent outside of Travis Konechny. And then when looking at the defense core of Cam York, Travis Sanheim, Nick Seeler, Rasmus Ristolainen, Jamie Drysdale, Jaeger Zamula, doesn't impress me that much. It's a bottom 8 defense core heading into next season, and then the goalie tandem is probably the worst goalie tandem in the NHL, considering what we saw from Fedotov at the end of last season. On top of Sam Ersson, he had to kind of carry the load once Carter Hart obviously dealt with his stuff off the ice. I don't think Sam Ersson is a legit number 1 or even a 1A. He's probably more so of a 1B or a backup. So as a result, I think a lot of problems are going to stem from their goalie tandem, and especially considering their defense core is not really going to help them that much. And considering they collapsed in the back half of the season, I keep on saying it, I think they're closer to the team that they were in the back half of the season. That was like a 65, 70 point team than they were in the first half. That was a 102 point team. I think that they're more so that team. Number 6, I have the Anaheim Ducks. I believe they were third or fourth in my last installment of this. I can kind of see the Ducks as being not a sleeper team to make the playoffs. I still have them as the 6th worst team, but I think this team could surprise some people. It's really going to come down to, can Pavel Mintyukov take another step, be a legit top pair defenseman, and can Olen Zellweger step into kind of a second pair offensive role and give this team 35 to 40 points? Because I think we agree, their forward core is only going to go up from here. I think it's actually going to be a pretty middle of the pack forward core when you look at guys like Carlson, McTavish, Cutter Gauthier right in his rookie year. I think it'd be very effective. So I think the forward core is going to be solid. The goalie tandem, if Dostal takes another step, it can be a solid goalie tandem of John Gibson and Lucas Dostal. I'm not saying that it's going to blow the world out, like, I don't know, blow the world out, blow everybody, shock everybody, but it could be pretty solid. So as a result, I have the Anaheim Ducks at 6th. Give them like 78, 79 points. Not saying they're going to be sniffing the playoffs, but being a solid team. 7th worst, I have the St. Louis Blues. They made some moves this offseason. Matthew Joseph, Radek Foska, and then the offer sheets to Holloway to Broberg. Those don't really move me that much. They definitely provide some depth for this team, but this team is still pretty disappointing, still pretty middling in my opinion, and I think that it honestly would be better for them to be this bad compared to another season of just barely missing the playoffs and believing that this core can go anywhere. Last year, they finished 28th in expected goals against per 60, but their goalie tandem really carried them. They were top 5 in goals saved above expected, so I think they're due for some type of regression in terms of their defense core getting exposed, and a lot of other teams in the Western Conference, some of the bottom pack teams made a lot of moves that I think they're going to be up, and as a result, I think the St. Louis Blues are going to fall a decent amount. Number 8, I got the Detroit Red Wings here. I'm lower on this Detroit Red Wings team when looking at them last year. They were very lucky in terms of shooting above their expected goal rate. Not sure that they could put up those league leading, or they were either leading or second only to the Canucks. So I think they're due for some regression in terms of goal scoring. They're relying on guys like Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko to play key second line roles. And then the defense, I think the forward core is actually be decent, but the defense core, it's pretty rough when looking at after dumping Jake Wallman. You got Moritz Seider, Justin Holl, Ben Sherratt, Gustafsson, Petrie, Edvinsson. Maybe if Edvinsson really pops, he can save that defense core, but I think it's probably a bottom 3 defense core in the NHL. And the goalie tandem, the trio of Alex Lyon, Cam Talbot, and Ville Husso, and then you also got Jack Campbell in the mix, is also probably a bottom 5, arguably, goalie tandem in the NHL. Talbot was very good last year, but he's 37 years old. I don't think you can rely on him to play serious games and replicate the performance that he had last year. And also, he's behind a very good defense core in LA, now going to Detroit. Number 9, here's where the Montreal Canadiens land, in my opinion. Yeah, I think getting Laine is a decently sizable add for this team, considering the fact they were lacking kind of goal scoring within their middle 6. Him on that second line, and him with Kirby Dach that didn't play at all last year, I think is going to be big-time adds. They're basically adding Dach and Laine on top of young guys like Slavkovsky. Lane Hudson, his rookie year, he's like one of the lead Calder favorites. I think he can walk in and put up like 35 to 40 points. Cole Caulfield's only going to get better. I think he's going to have a solid season. Caden Gooley's only going to get better. So as a result, I think that this Canadiens team is going to go from, what did they have last year? Like 78, 76 points last year. I think that they could be a solid 84, 85 point team. They could actually be playing important games come the end of March. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but like their fans could be like, if we go 9-2 in our last 11, we can make the playoffs, like shit like that. I think they're going to be a highly competitive team. Their goaltending tandem is obviously going to be massive with Montembeault and Primo. They're going to have to play big time if they want to be in the mix, but I think they're actually a pretty encouraging team heading into next season. The bottom 6 is rough, but I think the defense core is actually pretty solid, and the goalie tandem is solid as well. And then lastly, I got the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kyle Dubas is kind of just like, he's prepping for a rebuild right now, and looking at the fact that he dumped Riley Smith. He got a second-round pick to take on Kevin Hayes, got a third-round pick to take on Cody Glass. It is clear that he doesn't really believe in this current core right now, but he's respectful, obviously, of Crosby, Malkin, and Letang in terms of letting them retire as Penguins. But I think heading into next season, although I'd like to move with Rucker McGrody, I think he could actually be a solid piece next year. How much is he going to play over Mike Sullivan is going to be interesting. Under Mike Sullivan, not with Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan's not suiting up. But I think the Penguins are probably in store for an 85-ish point season. It's just not that much of an inspiring team. I don't think I'm a hating Islanders fan for saying a team that has back-to-back years missed the playoffs. And was 2023, they missed by 1 point. This year, they missed by a couple. It might have only been 2. But I think this team, if anything, is heading back downward instead of having one last run of being a high, safe playoff team in the NHL. Let's run through it one last time. It goes Sharks, Blue Jackets, Flames, Blackhawks, Flyers, Ducks, Blues, Wings, Canadians, and Penguins. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about it? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Are the Penguins making the playoffs? Who's going to miss? My New York Islanders are going to be the 9th worst team. I want to hear from you guys. I'll be seeing you in the next one.